we go. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Tea Writes. It is I, Jax Devora. I am a fantasy writer, working on potentially a debut. It's very complicated. In any case, you have stumbled across one of my writing streams. Basically, how it works is very simple. For the first half an hour, we're just going to chill out. Oh, that is not the right one. That is very weird. Hold on just 1 second. I seem to have the wrong image up. That's nutty. I do apologize. I have had technical difficulties all morning. We're going to figure this out, though. There we go. Where's the other one up? That's weird. There we go. Sorry about that. In any case, we, for the first half an hour, we're just going to chill while folks trickle on in. Now, you might have noticed that I said chill chats and whatnot. Here's the thing. If you're on Blue Sky, consider clicking on the little link that you see above the player window. That will bring you to a chat room. Inside the chat room, you can say whatever you'd like, so long as it doesn't make people feel weird and so long as it doesn't violate YouTube TOS. If you fulfill those little requirements, I will read your stuff aloud and respond to them. That is the social aspect of it. If you're shy, if you need a little bit of help easing into things, no worries whatsoever. There is a writing-themed icebreaker. Gabe has joined us. Good morning, Gabe. Usually the icebreaker is a writing question that gets you in the mood to talk about yourself, talk about your projects and whatnot. Today's icebreaker is tell us about your antagonists. I just felt like we talk about our MCs a lot. Might as well talk about the people who make them run. Anything that you want, anything's on the table. Go for it. While I continue the spiel. At 9 a.m. on the dot, that is less than half an hour from now, we will begin the first of several word sprints. What are word sprints, you might ask? It's pretty simple. Traditionally, a word sprint is a period of time, any amount of time actually, but for our purposes, it's 20 minutes, as you can see in the top left-hand corner of your screen. During those certain number of minutes, the idea is that you write for those minutes, and at the very end, you talk about how much progress you've made, take a rest, celebrate your victories. For our purposes, we're going to take the word very loosely. You can do whatever you'd like. My only rule is that it has to improve your life in some way. And chilling and vibing also improves your life. Excuse me. I've basically just woken up. But I'm still here. I'm still vibing. In any case, that is my key phrase, I suppose. You can do whatever you'd like during those 20 minutes that we have. You can write, you can edit, you can translate, you can plan, you can do things that aren't writing at all. You can do art, you can play video games, you can just chill out, you can do laundry, you can eat. I've had people do all of those things. Like I said, whatever fulfills you in some way, do that for those 20 minutes. At the end of the 20 minutes, we will take a little break, and during those 15 minutes break, the first thing that we're going to be doing is talk about our victories as well, as usual. Uh, then after that, I will be talking at you for some time. You are free to get up and do whatever you must for a break. Use the bathroom, get more water, get food, or just like stare into the middle distance and let your brain just shut off for a second. At the end of the 15 minutes, we dive back into another word sprint, and that's how it works. We sprint, we take a break, we sprint, we take a break, we sprint, and then usually we break like for reals after that, but sometimes, especially with the T rates, we do 4 of those bad boys. We're gonna see how far we get. Usually I'm like just at the start of a chapter. I don't normally like to go, too deep, or I don't normally like to dive into another chapter if I've just finished or midstream or something like that. So if I finish this chapter that we're on right now, then maybe. On the other hand, chapter 10, we're currently on chapter 9. Chapter 10 is whenever the characters go into the lion's den, as it were. So that might be fun. In other words, usually around third time that I've said in other words, there should be a drinking game for that. Don't make a drinking game for that. You will get very blasted by the end of the stream. But that said, we're going to see usually by around the third sprint, start of the third sprint, or the second break, I'm like, hey guys, do you want to go for 4 sprints? So, stay tuned. See what happens. To the chat, Gabe says, for the icebreaker, I'll talk about one of the antagonists for Fealty Among Bastards, my King Guard work in progress, because he is actually one of the main characters. Seamus is a mercenary leader, and I've described his group as being kind of like a 12th level D&D party. He does all sorts of jobs for pay and has a sponsor. Her name's Liana. Why is this so important to him? Well, Sebastian's father did nothing during a horrible plague. Seamus's baby brother had died from it, and his family was left in financial ruin. So it's for revenge. He ends up befriending Sebastian and Darren when he doesn't realize he's the king, so things get messy. There's an opportunity for him to be redeemed. Ah, yes. Villain redemption arcs. I am here for it. But also, I feel for Seamus. And also, Seamus is one of those villain tropes that I really like. And I don't know if it's a trope really, but it's like when I've talked about this a little bit on B-Sky as well, but like I like it whenever I like villains best whenever they actually have reasonable reasons to be villains. Like it makes them feel more real, and if like there's nuance to what they're doing, if it's like, aha, you're doing this because you're pissed off because your brother's dead, for example. Let me try to fix this window. There's a whole lot of fixing. That is not what I wanted to do. Try to fix this. Sorry, I got distracted. But, like, to me, the entire thing about villains here are just villains because bad is kind of like, it's very shallow to me. And you kind of feel it in sometimes I don't want to say like you see a lot in this space or this space, but whenever you have like a newish writer or or somebody who's jumped from a fandom space, oftentimes you'll have a villain who's like, yes, this is the bad guy because they're oppressing the character, or they're very villainous and evil and stuff like that, and they very clearly relish in their evilness. And it's like, well, yeah, okay, but and people aren't cartoonishly evil, generally speaking. Sure, you have people who are like, I do not care about the pores and shit like that, or you have people who are super duper shallow, or people who are just straight up assholes. But there's usually people do things for reasons, even if that reason is in my mind. I think that my philosophy is correct. So even like even if you think about it, like, even I'd hate to say it, but even racists rationalize what they do. So if you have you can still have a villain who's very much evil, but they have to rationalize what they do, you know? Like, they have to either think that they're right or think that the end result is going to make the world a better place somehow. Like, I'm trying to think of, like, the most monsters of monsters without going to the monster. But, like, if you take Charles Manson, for example, he made his fucking little cult, his little death cult, and sent them out to do murders because he thought that at the end of the day, like, there was going to be this huge thing, and he was going to survive with the people that he cared about the most, and he was just going to accelerate the inevitable because that would make the world a better place. That was the main thing. And I was actually thinking about cults recently too, and it's sort of like a lot of people assume that cults are like, ooh, satanic panic kind of bullshit, where it's like everybody, an entire circle of people in black cloaks doing weird shit. And it's like, no, it's a bunch of people who are doing weird shit because they think it's going to make the world a better place. For example, a lot of cults these days are not like, I worship this esoteric god. No, it's like, I think that a lot of cults these days are like, I think Jesus is really rad, but he really had this one weird belief. And he said that the end of times is coming, and that this is the proper way to prepare for the end times. And also, gays suck. That's what cults are all about. Like, it's not oh, I am doing dark magics and shit like that, or I am worshiping this entity that that is supernatural in nature and will bring about weirdness. It is, I am very into this one tenet that is the epitome of good. I don't know, like, and this is, and what we're doing is actually for the greater good, one way or another. Like, even cults that are founded on making the leader of the cult fantastically and ridiculously wealthy and famous. Certain ones that Tom Cruise likes, its followers have a specific belief, and they believe that they are correct in the matter, and it's that correctness and that drive to live your life righteously according to your belief system that makes it what it is and makes it what a cult is. And I keep on talking about cults because, like, that feeds back into the entire villain aspect, because that in itself is very similar to a cult. Their methods might be ridiculously wrong. They might be, their beliefs might be ridiculously wrong, but ultimately, they in their minds think that they are living their lives correctly, or that their beliefs will lead to a better world. But anyway, back to the chat. Gabe says the ultimate test for his redemption will come once Seamus finds out he's the king, but I can't get into it because spoilers. Understandable. Gabe says, I love complicated villains. And also, a correction, when he finds out Sebastian's the king, I meant LOL. Totally cool. Totally understood what you... totally understood. But, yeah, exactly. Complicated villains are so much more interesting than LOL evil. Because, like, I don't know. When you have a character who's evil because... and you don't actually dive in and examine their beliefs and why they believe what they do. It just feels cartoonishly evil. And cartoonishly evil is just like shallow, you know? For example, I will talk about Albert for a moment. Albert is a classist. He is also a little bit of an ist in general. So he thinks that Mick is beneath him, for example, because Mick is a commoner who wants to get with noblewomen, so that's a no-no. Or at least it's very clear that he has a crush on a noblewoman. And Mick is not a magic user in a world of magic users. And also, Mick is a human. So, who's not exactly the lowest of the low in terms of the fantasy races in the world of the Nameless Song. That would be basically the Zizun. But they are essentially two elves, which Albert is the Florida men of the Nameless Song. So basically, they are considered to be weaker magic users who do bullshit things with magic for no apparent reason other than magic. And elves kind of consider magic to be their thing because they are among the strongest magic users. They use it elegantly, and they just see that there are rules and reasons for rules and things like that. And then you have humans who are like, I have made a mud golem because it would be fun. So Mick is everything that Albert thinks is wrong with the world. And Albert thinks this because he was raised that way. He is raised in a world of wealth and privilege. Does that kind of mean that, is it difficult to agree with him? Yes. But there's a reason why he thinks what he does. And that is like the main thing. With Doc Holliday, it's he's doing it literally just because he wants to gather wealth and power and create this town that's for humans. And he is a little bit racist. But also, he is like the embodiment of capitalists these days. And he believes that, creating this perfect little town to be a beacon of everything that's good in his corner of the world is worse the pain and suffering that he puts other people through. And he controls people literally so that he can achieve this perfection and so that he can create paradise in a desert, in the mountains overlooking a desert. Like, he has he lost sight of literally any sort of morals and ethics? Yes. But the main thing is that his goal of creating that perfect little oasis is everything that matters to him. And why does he think that? Well, spoilers, but he also kind of grew up privileged. So it's a yeah, I mean, it's a lot of stuff that's basically saying privilege kind of makes you think a certain way, but you know, there's like they're not evil just because they're evil. In other words, they're not. Doc McQueen is not a manipulative capitalist because LOL manipulative capitalism is evil. He's a manipulative capitalist because it's he's so focused on the ends that all of his really really terrible means lead up to. But Elder says, I find cults so fascinating because the Satanic Panic really ruined mainstream's perception of them for so long. It's way more complicated than that. Yes, exactly. Like, I don't know. I was reading up about the Yellow Deli recently, and I'd seen a post that was like somebody visited the Yellow Deli, and they had posted a picture of themselves just kind of like sipping coffee, but like really unnerved. I was like, huh, wonder what that is all about. And then I do like a little bit of digging, and I was like, huh, yet another Christian cult that's weird about its beliefs in Jesus. Fascinating. If I had a nickel for every time that happened. But like it literally is. If you look into celestial seasonings, it's literally the same thing. Uh, like all these cults out there that like are anytime that you find like a hippy dippy little product or cafe or anything like that, it's so weird. It's like 9 times out of 10 it's run by a cult that thinks that Jesus hated the gays. It's like, what is this? But anyway, yeah, a lot of cults are not really about black cloaks and black magic. But Sherry has joined us. Sherry says hello, hello, and I say hello, hello back. Gabe says that this is such an interesting antag Jax for day. Thank you. I'm hoping that means Doc McQueen because like he is still a new character. I'm still exploring him. Like Albert is cartoonishly, cartoonishly rich. How's that? He's not cartoonishly evil. There are reasons why he. Well, I mean, he is a little bit cartoonishly evil because he's supposed to be like the comedic relief antagonist, the dipshit that we love to hate. But you know, he has reasons for doing what he's doing. But Doc McQueen, like, I hope that he's not like basically rehash of Albert. And I'm still working on him, so we'll see where he goes. Gabe says, for Day's Sprint, I'm going to try drawing Avery and Tristan. Yes, do it. Speaking of, it is 8:57, so if you haven't already, drop into the chat, say hi, talk about what you'll be working on while I take my morning pill. I have basically woken up, rolled out of bed, and run off to get the stream set up. And of course, like, OBS is royally botched my settings, so like I had to scramble to get everything fixed again. Like, for example, the image, I replaced the image and all of a sudden the image window just fucking vanished, and I'm like, what is this? What are you doing? But it's fixed now. I actually had to use like finagle a way to get that on screen, but we're all good. What I mean is, I have done literally nothing. Like, the first few minutes of the stream, I am going to make myself a coffee and grab a protein bar for breakfast. That also might explain why my throat is a little bit scratchy. I am not going to be helping it because I am going to go and get some iced coffee and probably set up a fan because it's already getting a little bit stuffy in here. Guys, I hate summer. Like, when I was a kid, I used to love summer, but, like, as I get older, the heat is getting worse. Partly because, as I get older, my body is like, I must operate in a very specific temperature range, and partly because global warming. But, yeah, I kind of miss, like, the couple of days we had earlier this week where it was, like, high 60s, low 70s. That was the ideal temperature for me. Not, like, 80s and humid. Please take this away. Anyway, 8:59. If you haven't already got into your stuff, get to your stuff. Back straight in the chair. Shake out those wrists, wiggle those fingers. Take a deep breath in. Let it out. One more time. And out one more time. 20 minutes are on that clock. Get ready. Get set. I will see you on this other side. Good luck. Shay says, I'm halfway through volume 3 of my dragon story. Your question made me think about my antagonist and how they're really faceless. I'm worried that I'll need to fix that somehow. If you have more story after that, you still have time. But at some point, you know, it's worth thinking about for sure. Anyway, I will shut up and let y'all do your thing. Good luck! that was sprint number 1. How did we do? I have coffee, I have had my protein bar, and I did 311 words, which is not bad for doing all that other stuff. But how about you? Meantimes, I am thinking about... Today is definitely going to be a very chill day. I want to try to get as many words done as possible because I have been routinely going under par this entire week, and I know that's not good at all. But I'm probably behind, I want to say. Let me see. Track bear. Sherry says 240, which is definitely a good start, for sure. Back to the dashboard. Okay. I mean, I am still a bit of ahead of the game because Trackbear says that if I wanted to go a full 30 days to make it to 50,000 words, I would have to write 1570, and that is actually less than the recommended daily average for Camp Nano July, which is 1612. So we're still ahead of the game, but I definitely need to build up my words this week. There is a little bit of an advantage. I don't have D&D this week, or this coming week, so my Thursday is going to be up again. Nonetheless, I have been feeling as if I've kind of slowed down a little bit in terms of enthusiasm. I mean, I'm still very enthusiastic about this story. It's just like the entire point is to get me back into writing and to fall back in love with writing and to get into the habit of making time for writing. But I also kind of feel like, I don't know, maybe it's just I'm burned out by a lot of things. So I'm gonna do my best though. I am kind of putting out feelers for a new job. Not that it's the entire reason why. I just feel, in general, burned out. It's, I don't know. I'll get into it in a second. Gabe says, I got a rough sketch done. The pose looks great so far. I'm trying to manifest the confidence I used to have in my art in high school, and it's working. Sherry says, nice, which I second because hell yeah to coming back into something that you used to love and falling back in love with it. I am really looking forward to the end art. I will actually have to actively stalk your account because I have noticed that I definitely need to do a trim down at some point, or at least put a lot of people on my mute list. Because there are a lot of people that I should be talking to more, or I really kind of miss having on my dash, but there's so much else other stuff going on. I think that's one of the things I'll be starting to do today, like unfollowing and muting people I just don't really talk to that often, and finding the people that I do talk to. I know that some people make feeds for that. I don't know, like I could probably also make a feed. I don't know why I wouldn't, but rambly rambly. But yeah, I've also felt very tired, and I do feel tired now. I will probably try to push for fourth sprint because we're just really scratching the surface of this chapter, and I think that's also it too. Like, I have a general idea of where I want to go. And as with most of my stories, I create an outline and then I deviate from that outline. Like yesterday, I'd mentioned this in yesterday's update post, but I will elaborate further. But basically, yesterday, for 400 words, I sat down and I was like, all right, I need to rewrite the plot. Here's what actually happens. And I basically wrote down the equivalent of you're going to have to throw out the first 7 chapters. um, but the idea is like, I mentioned this in the last stream too. I was having so much trouble trying to figure out why this one character who specializes in intel and in gathering intelligence for the group has no intelligence on the city that they're going to. And I will summarize very quickly, but basically, it used to be a mining town for something that is less than impressive than silver. Then silver was discovered, and there was going to be the beginnings of a rush, and then Doc McQueen rolled in and he literally took over the town. So there used to be like a little kind of modest, humble little mining town there. And there were mines, and humans and elves worked together to excavate basically probably zinc or something like that. Super ordinary, mundane. But when silver was discovered, people wanted to make their riches. So, but Doc McQueen stopped that by mind controlling the population and spreading the rumor that there's nothing going on, that it's just a budding resort town. And he literally mind puppeted the population into building a new town where the old one stood so that it can be more like the East, more like a wealthy oasis, because he is a wealthy industrialist from the East, or at least he was. There's a reason why he left, and I am kind of like slowly hammering that out. But at one point, the Zizun swarm had left the east coast themselves and had migrated across the west following rumors, following this one story about beautiful land out west and how gorgeous the prairies are, how full of wilderness and wild blooms it is. And the queen fell in love with these ideas and she wanted to see it for herself and establish her colony there. But they blew in through San Valentino, this little town, as just as Doc McQueen had finished converting it into like a mini resort town. And at first they were like, oh, this is so beautiful, you know, this must be the land. Then Doc McQueen captured their queen and realized that by holding their queen hostage, he can get free labor, so he no longer has to puppeteer the miners. So he did that instead. He basically freed, aka culled, a lot of the population of his city and forced the Zizun into the mines to work for free. Like, no money, no magic needed. Just into the mines or I kill your queen. But there should be whispers about this, and I'm still hammering out certain ideas. Like, it still doesn't 100% make sense, but the idea is that people still do go out west, but they don't come back because Doc McQueen just adds them to his numbers of puppets, or he has his puppets kill them. So the new idea is that the Intel master, the master of Intel for the posse that Honeysuckle hires, goes off to the town alone to collect information, to get a literal lay of the land, try to figure out who's there and what the general vibe is, but she doesn't come back. So now you have all the other characters who are less good at this trying to figure out how to not go in blindly. All they know is that Doc McQueen can puppeteer people because he sent a bunch of monsters and a random outlaw after Honeysuckle across basically state lines. And also he knows, or they know, that San Valentino is basically a random little town, and they have the idea of the outside of the town, not the inside, not who else is Doc McQueen has, not the limitations of Doc McQueen's power, anything like that. So they're basically largely blind. And right now, it's like this chapter is about the Aces High, the posse stumbling through some kind of plan. But I have a note halfway through last chapter that's like, yeah, Leia, your Intel character, she disappeared in like chapter 3. So you're just gonna have to assume that that's what happened because that's what's going to happen. And yeah, I do kind of probably think it might be a little bit weird because like it's about these 4 characters and one of them's gone for like half the book, but at the same time she's going to pop back up. And in fact, once the gang goes into the town for the first time and it doesn't go well, she's going to be the main posse character that comes back with like 3 go in, 2 go out, and she's one of the 2. When I say 3 go in, I mean not including Honeysuckle, and 2 go out, also not including Honeysuckle. So she and another one of the cast members is going to help Honeysuckle escape again, and this kicks off like Act 3. So we are actually gearing up for the main event of Act 2. But there is some build-up that has to happen. This is the last chapter before we start sneaking into the town and fucking up. But it's like... it's going very fast, I have to admit. But at the same time, it's also kind of going slow because I'm not 100% sure what's going on or what function this chapter will have. I'm sure, I keep on telling myself it's a first draft, so it's fine if it doesn't make sense or it doesn't have a purpose, because that is what revisions are for. And if I'm rewriting the first 7 chapters, I'm sure it will make a little bit more sense, or I'll figure out what should be here instead. But at the moment, I just need to bridge the gap between what I had before and the main event of Act 2. But all in all, it's like, by the way, 1 minute warning. All in all, it's a faster book than TNS, and I do appreciate that. Like, we're on chapter 9, and we're already about to dive into the core of Act 2, which is halfway through the book. We won't even talk about chapter 9 of TNS, and we're also only on 15,000 words, too. So, we're halfway through the book, and it's 15,000 words, but we're also going to draw out chapters in the revisions. We're going to add chapters. We're going to be doing rewrites of chapters that extend the story and plot. So I'm not worrying too much. Plus, the main event, the midpoint, as it were, is not necessarily the whole thing. Anyway, 20 more minutes are on the clock. One quick note back to the chat. Gabe says, I've been so focused since college on trying to make things right, and the result is constant art blocks. Yeah, that's mainly it. I have noticed that with writing too, like the more you try to create something that's perfect, the less you want to work on it. Anyway, I will shut up. Good luck. See you in 20. All right, that's sprint number 2. How did we do? Oh, actually, let me just start from there. There we go. 301 words. Not exactly great for Saturday morning sprint, I admit. I might have gotten distracted partway through, but also, like I said, and like I was saying before we started in on this past sprint, I'm not 100% sure what the purpose of this chapter is going to end up being. I also kind of feel like I'm trying to feel out what the plan is, basically, other than just run in. But slowly but surely, I think I'm starting to get a sense of where we need to go. And also, I am reassuring myself that if it doesn't serve a purpose, I can cut it later, because, again, first draft. But, I'm also kind of tired too. I'm thinking about going for 4 sprints, even if I finish up this chapter, and it's not really going to be that much longer. Uh, the more I work on this, the more I'm like, this is definitely going to be a chapter that I cut. However, it is important for me right now to to feel out what I want the characters to eventually do. And I'm sure that at some point this will be integrated into a different chapter. But it is kind of fascinating to work like this because, like, I've already I've already decided, I'm changing this, this, and this. Uh, so now I'm just like working through this and already acknowledging, yeah, isn't actually going to make it into the final story. However, what this is doing is allowing me to think out loud through the characters, essentially. I am letting them interact, I am letting them form a plan, I am letting them build up to the point where we go out. They just need to wrap up this conversation, and then the Tinkerer character the gnome named Miri is going to hand a magical slingshot off to Honeysuckle. The magical slingshot like many things that Honeysuckle has been given or has been taught so far, is going to be a Chekhov's gun. Haha, no pun intended, but there's going to be a little bit extra about Honeysuckle learning how to shoot. She is basically learning how to do all these things, and we're going to loop back in on that because, like, okay, I am actually going to tell you. Gabe says this. Oh my God, the sprint's over already, right? Time flies, doesn't it? I kind of wrote a couple of paragraphs and looked over, or I felt that way about the first sprint actually, where I made myself some coffee, got my breakfast, quote unquote, then sat down and started writing. But I looked over and I was like, why is it 15 minutes left? But Gabe also says, I lost track of time, LMAO. Progress, I'm fighting with proportions. Tristan's nearly a foot taller than Avery, so trying to make it look right is a fun challenge. I admire anybody who understands proportions in general, but that is definitely a mood, and I'm wishing you the best of luck. And hopefully, the eraser is kind to you today. Sherry says, I made it to 300 words despite mind wandering. I hear you. I wrote words and I was like, I'm just going to briefly close all these tabs, and somehow I wound up on Blue Sky again. But at the very least, I've made my minimum word count for this for today. Not like the minimum, but the minimum I told my friends that I need to reach before I can do anything else. But we're going to gun for at least the 1500 minimum word count that Trackbear recommends, and hopefully the 1600 word count that is recommended for Camp Nano in general. I don't know whether or not we're going to do that during the sprint or during the stream. I am telling you right now that I am gunning for 4 sprints today, so there's that. But at the very least, we're going to get as far as possible, and afterwards, I'm hoping to get 1600 by the end of the day on my own. Hopefully more than that, really. I'm hoping to make up all the lost words that I didn't do this week. Like, I can see on Trackbear where, or what I hadn't done. Let me actually see. Blah. Oh, it's also raining. Why are you not letting me display? I mean, I guess I can see. and do math. But there are a bunch of days that are under par, and I'd like to make up for all the days that I was under par. I know that I made up for the days, the first of the first week by Saturday alone. Let's see if I can do the second week. Sherry says it's dog walk time, but I am so glad we were able to write again today. I'm so glad that we are able to. As a reminder, we are doing 4 sprints, so hopefully you'll make it back for at least the 4th, but if not, it was good seeing you again, Sherry, and I hope you do have an excellent day. But, man, I have gotten off track again. I was talking about, how I'm okay with the fact that this is a pointless chapter that I'm probably going to throw away. The, next bit, Gabe says, if you're getting rain, I wonder when it'll be raining down here in Jersey, lol. Probably soon. I think the rain is coming from the west. So, if you haven't gotten rain yet, it'll probably be very, very soon. We're a tiny state. And that I've said too much, but there's a reason why a lot of my pictures of Benjamin outdoors involves the New York skyline. Sherry says, yep, it's going to be hell hot out there, but I'll be around. Excellent. Stay as cool as possible. Check yourself, hydrate, don't get heat exhaustion, please. And pet your doggies for me. Yeah, it's supposed to be thunderstorming too, which is why I'm staying most of the day inside, probably in pajamas. My plan is for the rest of the day, we're doing 4 sprints here, then I'm going to stop the stream, probably lie down for a long time, then get back up and either try to continue writing, probably also do some reading. I'm behind with my beta read as well. I think my beta has given me up to chapter 20, and I'm only on chapter 13. So there's that. But it's also a relaxation day. It's kind of funny because, like, there were days whenever I was extremely busy, like wall to wall, task, and it doesn't help that everybody's giving me stuff to do at the very last minute, like, hey, can you do this entire thing in a single day? And the entire thing is like, okay, go and read 70 pages worth of stuff. But, or even like 100 pages at some point. But it's less busy than it usually is, and that is part of the reason why I'm looking for another job. I also have a potential lead in my inbox that I have to address at some point. It is not exactly the best lead. It would be new territory that I would have to kind of feel my way out in, and it's not the fun jobs that I was applying to, I admit. But it pays more, and it might be a little more in line with what I'm hoping to do with my life. And it's not this. But other than that, like, I'm planning on giving myself like a brain break today, or at least a catch-up day. Then tomorrow I am taking Benjamin out to the city, because it's not going to be lousy weather. By the city, I mean like Manhattan. So I have ideas. One of them is I take Benjamin to the High Line. So that is plan A, where I take him. I go to my favorite restaurant, which is Assault and Battery in Lower Manhattan, get a fish sandwich, and then go walk along the High Line. Plan B is I take him to the Met because it's indoors. and we have not yet been to the Met, or at least I've been to the Met several times. The last time was probably in 2022. No, it was early in dipshits in my relationship was the last time that we went. But Benjamin has never been inside the Met, so I am thinking I will take him to the Met. But it really depends on what the weather looks like. If it's too hot to function, or if it's threatening to rain again. Because the High Line is unfortunately a railroad bridge. That's a park, and it's very beautiful. It's my favorite park in the entire city because it's so unique. It is a walking trail with flowers and plants and interesting buildings on either side and very interesting views of the river and of the city. Downside is it is a metal trellis bridge with very little shelter. So, it's starting to rain. That's not a good thing. But, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm, for one, hoping that the weather will be good enough. But, Gabe says that sounds fun. Thank you. I have spent a few weeks not being able to go out because it's either hot or it's been threatening to thunderstorm or I've had to do other things, so I haven't, or both. So I really want to make up some lost time with Benjamin. Like, I think the last real outing was the end of June, which wasn't too long ago, I know, but still. We had a 3-day weekend. I did absolutely nothing for it, but the weekend before I went to the botanical garden with him, and it was great. But, late showers. Next weekend. I'm also keeping an eye on next weekend because I have to do adult things. Anyway, minute warning for the third sprint. But that said, right, this chapter. Again, I really just need to push through, get the plan done, get the vibes in, and then after, the chapter immediately after will be them sneaking into the city. And I want to get that first look. I want to stop today's progress at that first look of San Valentino proper. Before then, Honeysuckle needs her little slingshot. She needs to learn how to shoot it. So the rest of this chapter should be the end of a conversation into a mini tutorial. Like, they set up one glass bottle and she tries to shoot it. It's like a magical slingshot with auto aim and shit like that, just to make absolutely sure that Honeysuckle is protected for shenanigans. Which is the entire point. Anyway, 20 more minutes are on the clock. I will see you on the other side. that is sprint number 3. How did we do? Let's see. "538 words, which is really more like it, to be honest with you. I'm very curious. Let's see. There we go. 11:45 in total for the day so far. Let me just track bear that. Like I said, we are going for 4 rounds, so that is, even though the timers on the screen right now say that we're in our last break, just keep in mind we are not quite done yet. We have 1 more to go. But yeah, that is a good start to the day at least. Gabe says ended up taking a longer break than I thought. Sometimes you need it, man. Gabe says today was really productive. Normally I'd reach the step I'm at 5 hours from now, lol. Well, I'm delighted that this has been helping you out. That is what these are here for. But yeah, we'll probably not reach the beginning of the San Valentino chapter by the end of the stream, I admit. Most likely we'll end up, we have 1 more sprint to go. Most likely they've just explained the plan. So the next step is getting Honeysuckle armed and ready and then wrapping up the chapters. So most likely we'll wrap up the chapter. And then I'm going to take a break after that, wrap up the stream, and just rest, maybe take a nap, maybe get some proper food. Side point, I have realized recently that being an adult means free will, meaning I can just buy things when I want. And I say that because, so I will admit that I fell off the wagon with vegetarianism. I know it's bad, but when the abdominal pain started, I wanted to eliminate as many potential issues as possible. And one of them was just basically like, well, maybe it's my diet. I am now actually pain-free. There are still some moments when I feel a twinge around the navel, but it's very brief. Maybe once every few days. So I really do think that I had actually mentioned that I think that was the meds that I was on, but letting my body rest and kind of going back to where I was beforehand is actually not too bad in my opinion. And hilariously, I've found that I've gotten a little more energy and lost a little more weight by not doing vegetarianism. Which all in all is to say that I have decided to, like, for the week, buy myself an entire actual fucking roast chicken and make salads out of it. And it's been delicious. I love it. I love having free will and being able to just do things. Like, it's weirdly cheaper to do that than actually just, like, making it yourself, not gonna lie. And it's still healthy. So I am proud that I did that. But, like, I think one of the things that I'm realizing again, that living on my own means I can just do things, and it's wonderful. I've been talking a lot about writing this stream, and this is the first time that I've kind of wandered off topic, and it's hilariously about the X. But I mean, at some point, I want to dive back into like the entire dating scene and try again. Uh, Preferably after I fix things up, but at the same time, I also know that I'm getting older and my window of opportunity, as it were, is kind of closing on a lot of things. Like, even if I know several people who have gotten their debut novels out when they were in their 40s, I still feel like I'm trailing behind somehow. Especially whenever meet like a debut author who's like, yeah, I definitely, you can definitely write however long that you want, and I definitely spent a long time on mine and didn't. And I'm also a late blooming author, and it turns out they're like 32. Um, Not to disparage the early 30s, but like when you're, there are also a lot of people who are like in their, when we talk about people who have found their footing early on, we're talking about like 20-year-olds oftentimes. Um, but you are still young if you're in your early 30s. And I say that I feel like a lot of people on Blue Sky don't know how old I am. I am definitely not older than the folks who consider themselves elders. Like, whenever somebody's like, I'm in my 40s and I have all these published books, I'm not in that age bracket yet. But I am not in my early 30s either. Like, I'm late 30s. I can remember the 90s vividly, let's just say. But I was not class of the 90s. I was class of the early 2000s. And in fact, fuck it, just gonna age myself. When I graduated, George W. Bush was still in office, and like my high school, college experience straddled the line between the Bush and Obama eras. So that is also kind of why I kind of stumbled through a lot of my adult life. Not to blame anything, because like I look at my high school, or sorry, college friends. High school friends kind of like stayed where they were. Not gonna lie. So, or they're now like some of them did, like one of them did turn out to be a doctor, and she has all these kids and whatnot. But a lot of them kind of quit the workforce and wound up stay-at-home momming, which is not at all a bad thing. But like, also I hope that they all have second plans, because who knows what happens. But the main thing is, like, I look at my college friends and they're like super successful. They have huge networks. They're doing a-okay. It also does not help that I went to Smith, so yeah, that happens. You have rich Smith kids growing up, and like people from Greenwich growing up to live lifestyles that you would expect from somebody who grew up in Greenwich. Uh, but meanwhile, I grew up not in Greenwich, and I feel like I've spent most of my life spinning my wheels. And I know that some of it is my fault, because I just did not understand how to network. I still don't understand how to network, but even then, like, I also have the excuse that the industry that I chose to work in has basically collapsed. Uh, So even if I did network, I would have to network harder to compete with hundreds of people who are going after only 50 jobs. But the thing with my age is that I graduated during a time when, like, I, when I was a very small child, like elementary school, beginning of middle school, it was still like the 90s, late 90s rush, where you had people who could buy houses for where houses were like tens of thousands of dollars and gas was still under $1. Uh, it was capitalism, but there was hope in it. Like you can theoretically make it in anywhere. And the tech industry had just gotten started. The dot-com bubble hadn't burst, so you had a lot of people getting very rich very quickly, and there was a lot of hope in there. Then the wars started. There were always wars in the United States, let's be real, but for a period in the 90s, we weren't as concerned with war. And then all of a sudden, in the early 2000s, we were concerned about war. And then in 2008, we were concerned about recession and the end of war. So when I entered college, it was a wartime economy. It was struggling still. Gas prices were climbing because we were fucking fighting everyone. But then, when I graduated college, the housing market had crashed. So, a lot of my adult life had been marked by a period of uncertainty and insecurity, and I just happened to choose a very volatile industry. It's not the most volatile, but the publishing industry had gone through so many changes, and with the rise of social media and with the rise of an over-reliance on technology, even back in the early 2010s, we were talking about whether or not print publishing was going to disappear. That was a lot of the argument against ebooks and audiobooks and things like that. And they didn't disappear because of those, ironically. They disappeared because, or they're starting to struggle because of the literacy crisis brought on by hyper-reliance on, culture's hyper-reliance on content, online content, and influencer culture. That's literally what I blame. It's like people had gotten onto TikTok, had gotten into trying to make it online, so they essentially were more susceptible to brain rot. Like the brain rot that we're seeing that we attribute to AI did not begin with AI. It actually began with the ubiquitousness of having the internet in your phone. Like once the internet was in your phone, once you can make content wherever and consume content wherever, and once advertisers realized that they could create environments to capitalize on having literally a television set in the palm of your hand, that's when the brain rot started. The companies had been or companies like Meta and platforms like X work because they convince you to listen to them and rely on the information that somebody else feeds you and shut your brain off so that you can believe in whatever. But that is why literacy is struggling. Like, I had actually seen a video recently, and I know I just said, blah, 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 don't believe everything, be skeptical. That's because, like, buying everything that you see online is exactly how we got into this mess. But, like, they did make a good point. A lot of the issues that we're seeing started because the iPhone came into existence. Once the iPhone came into existence, like, all of a sudden influencer culture took off. Instagram took off. Oversharing on Twitter took off. Then all of a sudden you had like Vines and then TikToks. Like everybody trying to be the next viral sensation, and instead of letting somebody else be the speaker of a generation, or leaving all of that celebrity culture to somebody else. But that is a rant for another day. I do apologize for ranting. Long story short, I am very tired. My industry is burning, and I don't remember how I got in on this, to be honest with you. Um, except now I'm realizing I can buy Pop Tarts a lot without judgment. Anyway, we are going to set up another session for 20 minutes. But because we are no longer on the train of timers, I can spend a little bit more time talking to y'all. Gabe says, I understand I'd taken a writing hiatus for 5 years, and I'm only starting to publish right before turning 30 when people in their 20s are getting full-fledged deals careers. Yeah, exactly. But like even then, I also kind of feel. I think that's what I was trying to get at. I personally feel like I wasted most of my time because where you are in your life right now, I was wasting mine, like at a job that I kind of like better than this one that didn't wear me down constantly, but it was not exactly where I wanted to be in my life. But also, I was writing fan fiction, and I feel like if I had started earlier and started taking writing a little more seriously, I would be further along than where I am right now. Uh, I don't know if I learned a lot from fan fiction. I nurtured a passion for writing through it, uh, but a lot of the things that fan fiction taught me were incorrect. And I say that not only in the sense that of my own personal writing, but like the things that people will tell you as advice in fan fiction spaces is not actually how to write. Um, I was in a fandom where the fan fiction communities there often would have these long guides about how to write specific genres of fan fiction, and they would go into deep detail on what was the genre and all these other details that didn't really matter. And the thing is, like, and there would be like people who would quote unquote know how to write, and they would write very long quote unquote reviews wherein they would basically pick apart your work and tell you what was wrong with it or how to improve it, quote unquote, or sometimes what you did right with it. They would live react to it. But ultimately, none of that taught me actually how to write. A lot of it was very circumstantial and based on either the story itself or it was based on the trends at the time or the people that who would leave that advice or direct advice would not go into detail on how to fix things. So you would have a sense that you did wrong, but not, what or how to apply the vague idea of a solution to your writing as a whole. It also, writing for fan fiction also did not teach me how to plan properly because a lot of fanfics in my fandom at least are pantsed and they are extremely long. In my fandom, it was not unusual to have fanfics that were hundreds of thousands of words long or millions of or even straight up a million words long. That is not how to write a book. Plotting was often all over the place. Pacing was often extremely slow. Characters were okay, but there was a lot of focus on angst. All in all, it's like a lot of what you do for fan fictions and fan fiction spaces do not apply to writing a book. And so therefore, like, I spent all those years because I didn't feel confident enough to jump space, and also I was like hyper fixated on this one thing that in a way that only really broke during the pandemic, whenever I was like sitting in a Discord server surrounded by a bunch of miserable people who dealt with the pandemic by being miserable with each other and only focusing on themselves instead of like creating an actual community where people talk to each other about something other than themselves. Like, I used to run a community, uh, but nobody would want to do anything in it except for talk about themselves, and it was super frustrating. Also, why I do not like to step into phantom spaces. But in any case, that's the first in any case in a while. I had jumped ship from that, but by that point, you know, I was well into my 30s, and I realized pretty quickly that what I had quote unquote learned, what I had spent most of my adult life and even my early teen years, because I had wanted to become a writer since I was like in my early teens. I'd always written stories, but when I was like 14, I was like, hey, I have a lot of fun writing. I want to keep on doing this specific thing. Uh, but then I spent like years and years and years being underconfident and being like, well, I need to wait until I'm ready, like until I know what I'm doing before I jump ship. Like, I want to get my career established so I have a second job to support me while I write. I want to create something that I'm proud of and can move on to the next thing. I want to finish this fanfic that will never actually be finished. All kinds of excuses that kept me from actually focusing on learning how to properly write a book. So that's why I've been stumbling in my first few novels, I think, but also because I started in on those first few stumbles, I feel like I'm behind in a lot of things. I feel like I'm behind in a lot of life things in general. Like, I look at my friends and I look at a lot of people out there and they're like married, they're in careers that they don't mind, that don't drive them insane. They're they're able to get houses and they don't live in apartments like I wouldn't say mine's roach infested. It's there are roaches all over the city, all over this town, in fact. So that one isn't the building's fault. But in any case, they're happier. And meanwhile, it's sort of like I'm here. The last I hadn't been able to have too many relationships, and the one that I had, or the last one that I had anyway, because I've had a couple of really important relationships in my adult life, but the last one that I had, the one that lasted through the pandemic and several years, it was going on to 4 years when it fell apart. And I'm not even sure if he actually loved me. And it's like, there's that. There's, I'm in a career and I'm not going anywhere with it because I didn't bother to build up a network before now, and I don't have the right skills to apply to the things that I do want to do. And also, my industry is shrinking so that there's more competition. So I'm in this job that I don't think I can leave unless the company folds, and I don't even have a book, and it's like all these things, and I feel like I'm so behind. But I just keep on going because what else is there to do? I have to put food on the table so that I can continue existing, so that Benjamin doesn't get thrown away, and so that I can take Benjamin out on adventures. I have to keep on working to pay off the debt that my asshole ex had left, so that I can bring Benjamin on more adventures. I have to keep on working on something because, like, I just want to be able to finish something, But also, I'm learning more. Once I left fandom spaces and once I got over the idea that I knew how to write, learning how to write has gotten a lot easier. But I do highly recommend that if you're out there and you're writing fan fiction because you're waiting to, and because you're sharpening your teeth and learning until you're ready to write a book, leave fan fiction right now. Because fan fiction will not tell you how to write that book. Fan fiction will instill in you bad habits early on that will take years for you to correct. And also, the longer that you spend writing fan fiction instead of the novel that you actually want to write, the more you hold yourself back from actually writing that novel. So do not do what I did. Uh, do not make the mistake of spending most of your life on fan fiction. You can still do fan fiction as a hobby, but do not spend all of your time saying, I'm going to eventually write the book when I feel like I'm ready. You are ready now. Or if you're not ready, you need to start learning how to be. You need to start learning and learning how to write a novel, because a novel and a fan fiction are two different things. And that is something that I feel like definitely needs to be shouted from the top of one's lungs. Fan fiction and a novel are two different things. You do not learn how to write a novel by writing fan fiction. Anyway, you also don't learn how to write a novel by attending classes too, because like classes teach you how to write short stories for specific lit mags. So just as a warning there too, don't waste your money. Student loans are fucking expensive. Don't do that. Go into the humanities though, because apparently those are very adaptable degrees. So anyway, back to Gabe. Gabe says, like, how did they get such luck, referring to people who turned 30, people who in their 20s got full-fledged deals and careers. Privilege is the answer 9 times out of 10, but it's like, damn, what am I doing with my life? Privilege and... I mean, yes, privilege is a huge thing, because a lot of the times the people who are able to get started early either A, had the money to take MFAs or to get MFAs, because MFAs will funnel you from your course directly into a writing career, so long as you're willing to do like lit mag stuff. Again, they teach you how to write for specific lit mags. The other option is that you're wealthy enough to not have to care about having a second job. You also often have pre-constructed connections to get you the deals, or you're able to spend money on, like, for example, Clarion. I say this because, like, if we look at Alex Astor, she came from a wealthy family with connections to the publishing industry, so therefore, of course, she has an in and built-in network. And with the Clarion thing, we look at Tamsin Muir, who I still love and think is a good writer, but she had the money to go attend Clarion West. Clarion West is not cheap. And Clarion West also gives you connections and a community. If you are a homegrown author, it's a lot harder. You have to get yourself out there, and you have to essentially grind social media numbers these days. Um, and by grind social media numbers, I genuinely do mean like be genuine. Uh, Talk about your work, but like in a genuine way. Like get people to care about you, uh, because that's what the agents and the publishing houses want. What they want is a built-in audience, and you can potentially get that with millions of viewers. We look at Iron Widow in that case, uh, but you can also get it millions of viewers genuinely is a good sign that you have a built-in audience. But if you have thousands of people on your account who actually genuinely care, if you can show them, show an agent, these people actually genuinely care and will buy this book, then that's a little bit more of a better sell. So there's that. And if you go the indie route, you still have to do that shit because you're just cutting out the middleman. So if like a bunch of people are like, yeah, I want to read this so badly, where is it? Then it's easier to sell them book. So anyway, those are my rants. I am okay with the progress that I'm making though on Beastlingers. Uh, Even if I feel like I'm stumbling, it feels ironically solid ground than what I usually have with TNS. So there's that. There are definitely going to be revisions, but I can see the cohesive whole. And it's going to be a shorter book, yes, but I know what needs to go in it, and we can potentially expand. But that having been said, I have gotten off topic long enough. We need to do that last sprint. So, 20 minutes are on the clock. Get ready, get set. We'll see you on the other side. All right, that is the last sprint. How did we do? Let's see. 559 more words, which again is not bad. That brings us to a grand total of, let me mark that down. Okay. Grand total so far. Oop. 1704 words for the entire stream, which is a good start for the day. That means that I've hit both of my goals for this stream, or at least two of the goals on the list. The first goal, of course, was to make the very minimum of 500 words. Second goal was to make the minimum of 1612. Third goal is going to be do the math, figure out how many words are deficit for the week, and then write to make up those words. But fourth goal is, of course, finishing Chapter 9, which we are very close to doing. I just need to get Honeysuckle that slingshot, and I think I'm going to cut it off there. I don't need to show the part where she learns how to use it. Especially since I'm not 100% sure I fully know how it works. It's magical, so like it has its own ammo, little magical balls, but Honeysuckle doesn't have much magic. I don't know why I keep on making protagonists who are in a world of magic but cannot use magic themselves. But there are reasons, entirely different reasons from why Mick can't. In Honeysuckle's case, it's because she's a Zizun worker specifically, so her powers are naturally weaker than most people's anyway, but she ironically has more magic than Mick when he starts out. The second reason is that she is of a specific element that does not manifest physically. So a lot of the magic in this world is elemental. So you have your water magic, your fire magic, your air magic, your wind magic, and your earth magic, but you also have things like wood, and you have lightning and light, things that kind of sort of have a physical manifestation. And then the third type of magic is the kind that does not have a physical manifestation at all. That's heart. The most common one I talk about is heart magic, which is magic of the mind. It lets you read minds, manipulate emotions, cast calming spells, sense presences, that kind of thing. It's like basically telepathy and clairvoyance all wrapped up into one. That is not Honeysuckle's magic. I cannot tell you what magic she does have because that would be a spoiler, but it is a magic that I have not had the opportunity to work with yet, and I'm very excited about finally having that moment. But the downside is whenever she has to use magic otherwise, it's always going to be through crystals, because crystals allow you to borrow other elements, and so long as you do not deplete the crystal entirely, you can refuel it using your magical energy and then continue to use that magic. But it's going to be a little bit awkward because that's like still a very finite resource, and I'm not 100% sure that the explanation will come across a-okay. We'll see. This is a very complicated magic system, the more that I work with it. And the more that I work with it, the main things that used to be a thing, like the fact that magic responds to music, becomes less of an important element, hilariously enough. But that's also why working on projects other than TNS has been really great because like I'm learning more about the world outside of Mick and Eleanor's story, so I can go back in and be like, all right, now I know what to tweak and what to revise and how to approach this again and make this a better story. For example, the magic thing or the music thing is now less an actual part of the magic system itself and more just a thing that Mick specifically does in order to focus himself in order to use magic because he basically has fantasy ADHD. But or at least I kind of like the more that I describe what's wrong with him that keeps him or not what's wrong with him but like what keeps him from being able to use magic, the more that I'm like this is fantasy neurodivergence. What am I doing? And it's like it's kind of funny because like one of the reasons why I started downplaying the idea of making it like in previous iterations of the Nameless Song, I had this concept called a void well, which was somebody who physically couldn't use magic. But the problem was, like in the last draft that betas had seen, they had pointed out that it wasn't really utilized enough, and also I didn't feel comfortable continuing the metaphor because, like, all of a sudden, Mick gets magic and he can use magic a-okay. Uh, and when you're talking about physical disability, that's kind of problematic. But when you're talking about neurodivergence, like the more I still kept it because that is part of why he doesn't feel adequate enough to be with Eleanor, and that's why Albert rags on him as a potential party member. Like it is still a part of his story. It's just not like the main reason why he's not doing so hot. But the more that I describe it, the more I'm like, it it's a mental block. He cannot focus his magic enough in order to use it, and nobody thought to teach him how to focus his magic because they don't know how to approach that kind of block, and they think that it's not worth approaching that kind of block. And the more that I'm talking about it, the more I'm like, this sounds a lot like how old-timey people used to deal with autism and ADHD and dyslexia. And I'm like, oh, it's not a physical disability. Mick is just magically neurodivergent. um, but that is also why I think if I go back to TNS and do another rewrite to kind of like fix it up, it's not going to be a full rewrite. But there are ways that, right now I have it with another reader, and the reader says that the reader is giving me the impression that the bones are good this time. It's just that it's top heavy in the first part. There are some things that could use a little bit more description, but ultimately I don't think it'll get a full rewrite, but there are things that I want to go back and tweak that are kind of fundamental to the story, but not like to this iteration of it. Like, it might be a world building background note that is incorrect now, that there's a paragraph on. But, and definitely the part where he's like, early on in the first chapter where he feels like his body's drained, it's going to turn into more like well, he just spent a shit ton of time focusing, but like the music is going to be like more of a focus object for him personally. He's good at music, so therefore it's how he connects to magic and how he clears his mind enough to be able to use magic. But it's not something that just anybody can do. Although there are hints whenever I have another character who's also slightly written to be neurodivergent. Like for example, Eleanor is definitely ADHD, but I don't say that. She hums when she uses magic. She doesn't need to the way that Mick does, but it helps keep her literally focused on the task. So, and you also have that with Leha in this story, the tracker. He goes a little bit missing. She hums when she uses magic, and she's a mage primarily. But anyway, um, that is a whole lot of words, and I got off topic again. Puppet has joined the chat. Oh, a bunch of people have joined the chat. Um, Hilariously, you had missed the fourth sprint. We, you know how we usually only do like 3 sprints, and then on Saturdays maybe I do a fourth one just because. I mean, I could probably do a fifth one because this story or this chapter still needs to be finished, and I do need to launch into the next chapter at some point. So maybe I'll just go until like for one more round. But anyway, uh, Gabe says, I've been listening the whole time to you, by the way, to your ranting. It got me in the zone, funny enough. I am, that was like before the fourth sprint started. But it is excellent to hear. I'm delighted that that helped you. Gabe says, nice work. And hopefully nice work to you. Tell us how you did on that fourth sprint. John has joined us and said, what I miss? Also, hello. Like I said, it was the fourth sprint. But fuck it, we'll go for one more. And Perp says, hi Jax, good morning. And I say hello back. I have already written 1,700 words. And we're going to go for one more. And then for certain, I will be closing up the stream to go and get some proper food. I have mentioned earlier that today's going to be a rest day beyond this sprint. I'm going to try to make up more words, the ones that I had missed earlier in the week, and maybe lay some groundwork for surplus of words for the week ahead. John says, yeah, I knew I missed a lot. Yeah, I mean, it was mostly, I had talked a lot this stream about uncertainty with writing and developing this book and how I'm a-okay with how it's a first draft. So there were discussions, there were lengthy discussions. I definitely went off. You heard a little sampler whenever I went off about an entirely different book, TNS. But progress has been made, and I am feeling a-okay about progress, even though I am currently working on a chapter that I might throw up because I have decided literally yesterday that I need to rework the first third of the book. Gabe says, I'm starting the rough line art now before I was sketching to warm up. I'm actually going to hop off and take a longer break. Enjoy the rest of the stream. Totally cool. Thank you for coming, Gabe. And have a really great rest. Excellent progress all around. Like, I am very eager to see this artwork of yours, for sure. So, yeah, we'll go for one more sprint, just because I kind of, I want to finish this chapter for sure, but also I kind of feel bad about the folks who just joined in. So, one more time, 20 minutes are on the clock, but this is the very last 20 minutes, I promise. So, get ready, get set, and without further ado, here we go. Good luck, everyone. is the last sprint. How did we do? That was 536 added words, bringing our total for today and the stream as a whole to 2,240, which, again, not that bad of a start. We are also at the very end of a chapter, so this is a good time for me to break it for the stream as a whole. Itchy has joined us and has said lizard. But that's great. Next chapter, I will probably start later on today to make up for the deficit that I had earlier in the week, and to start in on a surplus for the remainder. The next chapter will be the getting into the lion's den, as it were. We are quickly heading towards the midpoint of the book, so that's great. So that having been said, that was our first or in the very last of our... Ooh, I also missed a couple of calls. I will have to... I guess that's going to be the next thing that I do. Taking a break and catching up with the things that I missed while I put my phone on Do Not Disturb for all of this. Let's talk about the rest of the week, just for funsies. Let's see. Okay, so I have the calendar in front of me finally. Tomorrow I am planning out how did we do, and Puppet's response is itchin'. I don't want to know what that means, dear sir. John says, you did itchin' during this stream? What? John says 198 prologue is nearly done. I spent the week planning. Totally cool. That is still good progress. I hope that you, I hope that's the beginning of the progress that you will be making today. And I do wish you the best of luck with the rest of the day too, if you're going to go off and continue writing. Perp says more like stupidin. I will give you props for that. That was good. So anyway, calendar. Tomorrow I plan on going off to the city. I had mentioned this earlier, but I plan on spending the day hiking the High Line, which is one of my favorite parks. Actually, my favorite park in the city. There will be fish to be had, also because I'm going to my favorite restaurant and treating myself in general. I've been cooped up on the side of the city for far too long. Also, Benjamin needs to see some sights. We haven't been out since late June, so we need to do our July thing, basically. So there's that. I will not be around tomorrow. There will still be writing. I don't know how much, so we're going to be doing surplus. So no stream tomorrow. I don't usually do streams on Mondays and Tuesdays because Mondays and Tuesdays try to murder me with work. So the next guaranteed stream will be at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And sprints start at 9 p.m. That is going to be our night rates. The night rates. I can speak. Hold on. Let me try this all over again. The next guaranteed stream is July 15th. That is night rates. It's going to start at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time and go until whenever. Sprints start at 9 p.m. So if you are a night person, consider joining the night rate stream. Then we don't really have anything planned on the 16th or the 17th. Keep up with my BSky on jackstavora.bsky.social. That is where I will make my announcements if I decide to do surprise streams between our usual streams. I don't use YouTube's community tab, so don't bother checking that. You can hit the bell if you want notifications on when I start streams, but you will be late. So I would highly recommend just going to Blue Sky. So yes, there might be surprise streams Thursday, Friday. We'll see how I'm feeling. Saturday, it is going to be a very truncated one because I have, in my infinite wisdom, decided that I need to do something at exactly noon. So we're still doing tea breaks then. It is going to start at 8:30 in the morning Eastern time, right right on Saturday morning, but we're just going to get as much done as possible and end it at 10:30 instead of going over like we did today. Then let's see. Depending on the weather, we might have another stream after that. Who knows? But we're not going to go super duper deep into that. The long and short of it is no stream tomorrow, Monday, or Tuesday. Yes, stream on Wednesday because that's our usual, but it's at night, 8:30 p.m. Join us on the 15th. Then maybe 16th, 17th, depending on how I feel. Keep up with Blue Sky to see. 18th, yes, but we are going to be booking it that day. With that all in mind, thank you all for joining in. I am going to log off and get some much needed lunch and rest. But I am always delighted to do these. I especially love the Saturday morning ones because folks here in Saturday morning, like, it's I have to force myself out of bed, sure, but I haven't run myself ragged with work, so it feels like I'm more productive. And the people here are a little bit chill, you know? Mostly chill. I'm looking at you, Perp, with your calling out of Itchy. No, I'm kidding. Um, but I am hoping to do these again and again, and will definitely see more of these throughout July, then into August, because I don't know if I'll actually finish the book by the 31st. We'll see. But in any case, I hope you all enjoy the rest of your Saturday and whatever you're going to be doing for it. And as always, uh, stay hydrated. Know that I love you. Know that you're loved. And I'm going to cut it off here. So thank you all for coming. And I'll see y'all later. Take care.